Good morning, all. It's my pleasure to be here with everyone today. It's my first time in Lithuania. You guys have been all wonderful to be here. I'm getting to experience your culture, your food, and your hospitality. So thank you so much for allowing me to be here. For the next hour, I'm going to talk a little bit about what we have been doing in the United States I've been with Americans for the Arts for the last 21 years. And I will also try to speak slowly because I know we're being translated. I speak very fast, so I'm very sorry. So I will try to speak slowly. I've been with Americans for the Arts for the last 21 years, and we're basically the equivalent of the National Association of Creative and Cultural Industries in the United States. And we have been working really hard over that time to change the arts to the CCI. And you will hear me over the next hour talk about the CCI. You might hear me say the word arts. You might hear me say the word creative economy. They all kind of mean the same thing. I might say the traditional arts versus the CCI. So if you do hear me say the word arts, I do mean the CCI, the creative industrial economy, because we have spent a lot of time in the last 20 years getting our businesses, our entrepreneurs, our elected officials to realize the breadth and how big the arts are, the CCI is to our economy. And so I just wanted to let you know a little bit about that. And so my goal here, my job, is to really try to help you as you maybe understand yourself, or as you are working with businesses, other entrepreneurs, your government, to think about the CCI in maybe a little different way. And that's what I do a lot, is we all have our preconceived notions of what the CCI is, and it's really so much more than really that. So where did we all start? We started way back in the Stone Age. The CCI is so old, in the prehistoric times. This is an old flute, and we don't know what the flute was meant for. It could have been just for play and for fun. It could have been for a celebration, a festival. It could have been to call people in for the night. You don't know what it is. So the CCI goes back so many years. We hit a bit of a roadblock in the Middle Ages. This is the shame flute. If you got in trouble, your hands were bolted into the shame flute, and this went around your neck, and you had to stay there for the time being. So we hit a bit of a roadblock. The CCI in Europe was not really appreciated. We had the Puritans in the United States, if you're familiar with that. They were everyone that was dressed in black, and they did not like the CCI or the arts at all. You know, they outlawed dancing and singing and Christmas and all that stuff. You were not allowed to have any fun, basically. You were very dour and everything like that. And so we hit a bit of a roadblock. Thank you for smiling at my joke, right over here. I will make fun. I will talk to you. I like to have audience participation in there, so I will talk to you. One of the things, though, that I do is I really like to, when I talk to people in the United States, especially elected officials, we all have preconceived notions. And I like to say, what do you think the CCI is? And I'll ask people that. And I'll ask you that. So this is audience participation time. What is the CCI here? What do you think? Just call out stuff. I want to listen. Please do it in English because I don't know what you're saying. If you're saying in Lithuanian, what do you think the CCI is here in Lithuania? Concerts? Okay, yeah, that's certainly part of the CCI. What else? Heritage? Absolutely. Festivals? I didn't hear what you said, ma'am. Design is certainly part of the CCI here. What else? Rap, certainly. Oftentimes, what I've heard, though, is, for the most part, with the exception of design, is that oftentimes people think that, at least in the United States, that the CCI is, I have this photo, an old lady in opera glasses. And what does that connote? That the CCI is for the elite. That it's only for, I would say in the United States, New York Broadway or Hollywood in the music industry, or the movies, that the CCI isn't for everyone. And honestly, the CCI is in every community, every town in Lithuania, in the United States. The CCI is everywhere, but people think that the CCI is just in the big cities, right? Or it's just for the elites. And I have to work every day in the United States as someone who tries to advocate for the CCI on the federal and the state level, to educate our elected officials to say the CCI is for everyone. And we have to break that down because people don't really realize what the CCI is. And so the CCI can take many different forms. You're probably familiar with this, the Hill of Crosses. I'm going to hopefully see it on Saturday. I have a few extra days here to see something like that. That's what you would probably call a traditional form of the arts, or CCI, correct? It's more what you'd say probably traditional. Here's Trichet, did I pronounce that right? Castle. I'm gonna go see that on Saturday too. Is this more traditional or modern, do you think? Audience participation time. This also is my excuse to be able to pause to take a drink of water. So this is a little bit of a little thing that I do. Traditional or modern, do you think? It's 800 years old, so of course it's traditional. Or is it? So, when I was thinking about this, when I was looking at that, so the castle has certainly architecture here. It's got design work. It's got certainly some defensive work here, the moat there, landscaping, the bridge as transportation. So I don't know, is that really just traditional as we look at the CCI? That looks kind of modern to me. That's out there, that the designers, I don't know who built this, I'm gonna find out a lot more this weekend when I go visit it, but this is using the full breadth of the CCI in a very old way, 800 years or so old, I think. And so we need to think about these traditional art forms in a broader, more holistic way. And that's what I try to do in the United States. And that's what I would like to encourage you to try to do here in Lithuania as you talk to your leaders, your business leaders, as you talk to yourselves, to think more broadly of what the CCI really encompasses and what it really does. I'm gonna give you another couple examples here. I'll go a little fast. We had this little dust up in the 1770s in the United States called the American Revolution. And we used the arts, or the CCI, there too. George Washington, when we was having some really hard times during the winter, commissioned the Cicero plays to help with morale, so people didn't desert and go home. He also used the arts, the other photo there, for patriotism there. So that's a very famous photo for him crossing the Delaware. Is that traditional or modern, do you think? That's traditional, but he used the arts for patriotism too. So that to me sounds like maybe a little more modern stuff there too, back in the 1700s there. How many of you are familiar with the Ghost Army of World War II? I heard a couple yeps. So, what? Decoys, yes, exactly right. So there was a whole army in World War II that was decoys. It was made up of artists and other CCI members to confuse the Axis into thinking we were going to invade in another area. And so you see on the left, the tank, that is a balloon basically, and then that's a wooden airplane there. So it was a whole area of artists to design these things. You also had other groups that created a whole new radio transmissions and actors that recorded different lines and stuff like that. And so it diverted a whole bunch of resources from the Axis up north, and it was credited with saving hundreds of thousands of lives. So again, this is another great way of how the CCI plays an unusual role in our society. And then lastly, I found this. This is in Chicago. They actually have a Lithuanian festival every year. I guess there's a Lithuanian contingency of people who live in Chicago. And they actually have a festival. This is more traditional art forms, what you would call traditional, but it just gives you a taste of what is to be held here in Lithuania as far as the traditional versus what the CCI really does, the full breadth of that. We also, do so much more too. We talk a little bit more about, you've heard the word, the acronym STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. We talk about that in the United States a lot as far as our education goes. We talk about STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. The arts connect engineering to math. That is a more holistic way of educating our youth, and I'm going to come back to that here in a little bit. We talk about, say, arts in our healthcare, art in our economy, and I'm going to talk about our economy a lot here going forward. So there's some photos here of how we really do, the CCI really does permeate our society. So what is the CCI? This is the American version of this, but I think this is going to relate pretty well to Lithuania here. There's about 15 different topics that could be here. You have the more traditional, and you have the more technological versions of the CCI. I'll read them around real quickly. Advertising, architecture, arts and antique market, crafts, design, fashion, video, film, photography, interactive games, music, performance arts, publishing and printing, computer services and software, television and radio, research and development, and the culinary arts, cooking. That's pretty broad range, isn't it? As our society has evolved, so has our economy, and so has the CCI. We have our beloved traditional CCIs, but we have these new technological CCIs. But both create something from an idea. And that's, I think, the key thing that we have to keep in mind here is everything, all those 15, takes a creative person to use. And at the base level of the CCI economy is that person being creative and making something from nothing, basically, from an idea. Whether it's game design, or whether it is someone with a piece of canvas and oils. They're both making something from their idea, from their creativity. And we both have to recognize that the CCI economy involves both of them. And that's something we have been doing in the United States, especially for the last 20 years, of really bringing that full brand of the CCI under the arts that are there. One thing that we have to stop doing is, this is, Oliver Twist, his little scene where he's like, "May I have some more porridge, please?" We have to stop doing that. We have to stop thinking that the CCI is not worthy of respect, is not worthy of being able to compete, is not worthy of standing up to other needs of the government or of business. We provide a lot of great things to society. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. In America, I have worked to educate members of the CCI to realize their importance to our country and to the economy. Again, no more begging for services. I want them to demand recognition for their work. We have great economic, social data, and we prove this day in and day out. We just need to understand it ourselves and be able to prove it, to other people. And we have great research, and I'm going to show you some of that research here in a second. One of our tools that we use is what we call our new community vision initiative. And there's a little website on top called americansforthearts.org/social impact. It's an interactive web page if you want to go there. There's 26 topics on there. There are 26 different topics of where the CCI in society where the CCI interacts with society. So it can be anywhere from the CCI in healthcare, the CCI in transportation, tourism, helping with at-risk youth, for example. Helping with people aging in place, not having to go into nursing homes. The CCI in housing. All types of ways that we work with our elected officials, our businesses, and our CCIs to say, here's how the CCI can help you with your problems. When I talk to my NGO CCI members, I'm saying it's not so much about what you want to do, NGOs, but I would go talk to your elected officials and say, what is your problem? Oh, it's housing. We can help you with your housing problem. Or it is a problem with PTSD with our children, because in the United States, we have some problems and our kids have PTSD. So how can the arts help with, or the CCI or the arts help with that? We can help solve problems. We are solutions. Again, getting our members to think about the arts in different ways that are out there. This graph comes from an organization called the National League of Cities. So they're, in the United States, they represent mayors in the United States. And so they ask their mayors each year, what is their top issues that they really care about? And the top one is economic development. Makes sense, mayors care about economic development. And then there's infrastructure is the next big one. So bridges, roads, stuff like that. Budget, everyone cares about budgets. And then on the other side, housing, safety, health, education, environment, technology, and then demographics. So I count 8 of the 10 of those where the CCI entrepreneurs can easily help these mayors out with solving their problems and get funding from these mayors to help do these problems there. We just have to talk about the CCI in a way that mayors say, oh yeah, you can help me with that. Or you can be my partner with that. And not the Oliver Twist just coming asking for more, but we're coming as an equal partner to this. And so we have to just make sure that as we're talking about the arts, we're making it's certainly relevant. I do want to talk just quickly about COVID in the United States. Like COVID here in Lithuania, the CCI was pretty devastated. But one of the nice things is once COVID was quote unquote over, it's still with us, but once we were able to come back together, the CCI really roared back together. We are still recovering from that, but most of our CCI members closed, devastating losses to that. But the one thing that happened was it gave us Americans for the Arts an opportunity to change some laws in the United States to allow the CCI, especially the NGO members of the CCI, to be treated more fairly, like traditional businesses. Do you have something called gig employees here? Do you know what I would say a gig employee is? An at-will employee here, so someone who works for themselves, a contract employee. So we have a lot of those in the United States, and they were not treated fairly before COVID. So before COVID, I know we have some really strange backwards laws as far as employment in the United States, I admit that. Before COVID, these employees weren't eligible for unemployment insurance. So when they had to stop working, they didn't get any government help. Well, we're like, that's wrong, and we used COVID as a way to be able to change that law. So nowadays, these employees now get government help if they become unemployed. Or NGO, CCI weren't eligible for federal government small business loans where other businesses were. So we were able to use this as an ability to change laws. And so that was actually, COVID was absolutely horrible, but we were able to use it as a way to make it more equitable for our nonprofit CCIs and our business CCIs to be able to make it so that they were able to both compete in a more equitable way there. I was talking about, but we're still recovering. But the nice thing is we were able to really use use COVID as a way to change things. And that's what we always need to do, is look for ways to be able to change what we're doing here. I was talking about STEM versus STEAM. Just a little bit of a thing here. So, people say, why is the CCI important in schools, or why is arts education important in schools? So this is Thomas Suhoff. He's from Germany. He won the 2013 Nobel Prize for Medicine. And he was asked the question, which teacher had the most influence upon you? And he said, my bassoon teacher. And they're like, what? What do you mean your bassoon teacher? You got a Nobel in medicine, and your bassoon teacher was the person who influenced you the most? And he said, yes, because they helped me with my drive for excellence, visual thinking, pattern recognition, problem solving, and perseverance. So, we in America fight to make sure that the CCI, what we call arts education broadly, is taught in schools, because studies tell us that students who have a minimal arts education, at least one class a semester, are 4 times more likely to do better academically and in school, and are also 4 times less likely to drop out. So arts education really helps us in our school systems, but unfortunately, it's one of the first things to get cut too. So we have to strive to make sure that that is also there, because what does a good arts education do? It creates the next generation of CCI employees that are out there. So, speaking of the next generation of employees, so, some advice to our CCI entrepreneurs. And how many CCI entrepreneurs do we have in the audience, do we think? Okay, I see one. Thank you for being brave to raise your hand for a CCI entrepreneur here. So a little advice, well, one, I hope you consider yourself a small business. That you are a small business. One time, I always have to tell my CCI people in the United States that you are a small business. Act like one. Stop thinking of yourself as separate from the business world. Be an active participant in that business world. So we have chambers of commerce organizations in the United States. I don't know what you have here, but whatever your organization is that represents businesses, join them, influence them, change the way that they think. Because in the United States, oftentimes they think of the arts as not really businesses. And we're going to get to some stuff here in a little bit. So we have to really make sure that we change their minds. And you can do that much easier from the inside than looking from the outside there. Continue to educate key decision makers on what the CCI does. That's all. I've been talking about that. And then again, I've talked about post-COVID, we were able to change some laws. So continue to do that as the entrepreneurs there. Some of the things that we are continuing to do in the United States, just some ideas for you as business entrepreneurs. We have a couple pieces of legislation that we are trying to work on at the federal level to change the way that we treat our business, our CCI entrepreneurs. One is called the CREATE Act, the Comprehensive Resources for Entrepreneurs in the Arts to Transform the Economy. That's a mouthful, but we call it the CREATE Act. It aims to expand small business programs for artists and arts entrepreneurs, as well as to strengthen the arts-focused economic development to increase tools and resources for creative workers. The idea is to treat creative CCI entrepreneurs just the same as business entrepreneurs. That's what we're trying to do in the United States. So that's one piece of legislation that we're working on, just to level the playing field. The idea is we're the same. You're the same as Microsoft. You are. You don't know that, but you are. You're the same as Microsoft out there. You both are a part of the business world, and you just need to, make sure that people, recognize that that is the case there. But that's the problem, is the CCI is one of the best kept secrets that are out there. So let's talk a little bit about research, because we can talk about the CCI until we're blue in the face, but we have to have research to demonstrate why it is a valuable thing for us. And so in the United States, we talk about GDP, and I think you call it value added here, part of your economy. So in the United States, the creative economy, our CCI, is $1.016 trillion US dollars. And you can see that line. It keeps going up and up each year. It's the red line there. It says AS something or whatever. That's the federal government's acronym for the CCI. It's hard to read that, but retail is above it. So that's all your shopping that's out there. The CCI is 4.3% of our GDP, which is, again, larger than below it the construction industry in the United States, the transportation industry in the United States, our mining, our utilities, our educational system, our agricultural system. And even when COVID was happening, the CCI was bigger than retail. We are huge in the United States. And people just don't even realize how big we are. The problem is we're not just in big skyscrapers. We are spread out, again, in every municipality across the country. So let me just show you a little something here. This is the map of the United States. And so even in our most rural states, each state has at least about 2% of their GDP that is there. So you can see California, which is on the far end here, the big state, that's 7.5% of their GDP. So, okay, that's Hollywood. Yeah, that probably couldn't explain that. You have New York on the other side, that's 7.3%. So, okay, Broadway, things like that. But our biggest state is Washington State. So that's the far top one up there. 10% of their GDP, of their economy, is the CCI. Want to take a guess why? You're good, Microsoft. All the technology companies are based in Washington, King County, Seattle. It's amazing how big it is. So it doesn't have to be. That's not the traditional CCI. That is the more technological. But you know, one of the reasons, though, if you go to Seattle, they are rich in the traditional CCI because they want people to live there. They want talented, educated, innovative employees to live there because they need those employees to work there. And they're not going to live there if they don't have cultural things to do. And they go hand in hand. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. So let me give you what's wrong with Delaware? 1.1. Delaware, they all go across the river to Philadelphia, to be absolutely honest. So Delaware is a very small state. It's actually, it's really tiny. And so Delaware doesn't have a lot of population, and they just all go across. It's literally you go across to Philadelphia in Pennsylvania to do stuff like that. So they literally have 3 counties. I could go on and on about that. But yeah, I forgot about Delaware out there. They have a very rich cultural economy. It's just surrounding them. They just have a lot more stuff that's out there. But I want to just, though, talk about one other state. So in the middle of the country is Iowa, IA, 2.1%, okay? That's where I grew up. It's very rural. It's very much like Lithuania. We have about 3 million people. You have about 2.8 million here. We're very rural. We have only, our biggest city is Des Moines, about 400,000 people. I grew up outside of Des Moines. Our second biggest city is Iowa City with about 200,000. That's where our big university is. So very, very similar. Des Moines is mostly, is known for its finance and insurance, but the rest of the state is farming. But even in Iowa, it's 2.1% of our GDP, almost 42,000 jobs, $5 billion for the arts and culture, and about 2.5% of the workforce works for the CCI. And the reason I bring this up is that we have an issue, a problem in the United States. So you had all those numbers in California that was going on there, but it's very expensive to live in California. Now, post-COVID, if you have a good internet connection, you can live almost where, because we do a lot of teleworking nowadays. And so companies are looking to let their employees or move other places. This is actually happening before COVID. They're looking for areas that it's cheap to live in, plenty of land, and an educated workforce. And actually, Iowa meets all those things. We have one of the best school systems in the country overall, because I grew up there. And another state next to us, Nebraska, has the same thing going on there. And so it's very cheap to set up shop there. But people have to want to live there. And so they've embraced the CCI because people want to be able to do things. So we have wonderful museums, wonderful theaters, and then that has brought in the technological CCI as part of that. They go hand in hand. And so it just doesn't have to be the big New Yorks or Hollywoods. It can be, anywhere that's out there. So I just want to make sure that everyone knows that you don't have to be the big metropolitan cities to have a strong CCI, that they can really be anywhere. So I am going to go through some research here. Again, just to kind of show you how much of an impact we have before I settle up here. And just so I know, the timer here, is that for my remarks or is that with questions? Does anyone know? Anyone tell me, like with my timer here, is that, am I supposed to finish my presentation plus then 15 minutes for questions, or am I already out of time? Because I don't even know. I'm going to keep talking until someone tells me otherwise. I'm just going to do that. So, anyway, so we did a study of our nonprofit NGOs, and if I do need to hurry up, please just someone tell me. And we studied 373 different cities across our country. So not everything, just 373 cities across the United States. And we found that the nonprofits had a $151 billion industry that's out there. So again, a huge industry just for the nonprofits. And it dispels the myth or rumor that the CCIs are, in the United States, just charities, that they don't produce anything. So the organizations themselves had $73 billion in assets that they spent, and then $75 billion that their audiences spent on top of that. Do we have any people who work for city governments in the room, by any chance? I see one brave, two brave souls. So one thing that you guys care about is tax revenues, right? You want tax revenues to come in, especially if you're an elected official. So of those 373 different study regions we found that the nonprofit CCIs generate $29 billion worth of taxes for their local economies. Audience participation time, can you guess how much that the governments spend on the arts, how much they fund the arts? Take a guess how much money that they provide. So they're giving $29 billion, or they're getting $29 billion from the arts. How much are they giving to the nonprofit arts? 1%. 1%? That would be like $200 billion. 50%? Oh, that'd be a lot. They have $5 billion. So the governments in the United States appropriate $5 billion to the nonprofit arts, and they're getting $29 billion back. That's a great return on investment, isn't it? So it dispels the rumor, the myth, that the nonprofit CCI is just this big black hole you throw money down. We are a great return on investment. So if you invest in the CCI, you will get a return on your investment, in this case 5 to 1. So, we really want to make sure that we show them. And when I do talk to, especially my more conservative elected officials, this is when they go, wow, I had no idea, because everyone thinks that the arts are not real jobs, that they're just starving artists. And we're not. We give a lot to the economy. Think about when you go out to the theater or something like that. You don't sneak out of your house and go to the theater and you run back. You spend money. And so in the United States, we found that the average person, when they go out to the theater or any event, they spend on average of $42.21 in addition to their ticket price. And that is money that goes right into the local economy, and it stimulates the local economy. And we also found that 79% of those people said that the arts, or that place they were going, was the primary purpose of their trip. And so that they wouldn't have went out if it wasn't for that. And so again, the arts are putting in a lot of great money. So I have a couple great examples. One example that I have is, and this is right where I go, there's a theater that I go to called Signature Theater. And it started there, and now there's like 3 blocks of restaurants and shops and places. It's the place to go and spend money. And it's wonderful. And it's because the theater started there. It was nothing beforehand. And we have all kinds of great examples of stuff like that. I'm gonna start going a little faster because I'm starting to run out of time. This is a little bit of a chart. The red chart is jobs that, percentage of the US workforce that the CCI supports. So these are not CCI jobs. These are jobs that the CCI supports. So, you know, it would be folks like accountants, you know, even like plumbers, carpenters, stuff like that, like that we support. And the next one next to it is elementary school teachers. So it's 1.1% for the arts-supported jobs or CCI-supported jobs, 1.14% for school teachers, and then it kind of goes down. So you see the fourth one is police, then there's lawyers. So you would actually, so again, we, the CCI, even the jobs that we support, ancillary jobs, is still more than if you added up police, fire, and lawyers all together in the United States. So again, we have a huge amount of jobs that we create there. So I just gave you some great data that's there, but I just wanted to give you some information. So is this just for my presentation, or this is just my presentation? Perfect, okay. Okay, I just gave you some great information about some great data, but what makes great data great data? So just some information. So it has to be relevant to that. So in that data that I just gave you, you know, it demonstrated my points that the arts are good for the economy. It had to be, make sure your data is specific to your locality. In this case, I was talking about America or Iowa, for example. Make sure you clearly demonstrate your point. You know that, in this case, the CCI is powerful. It must be reputable and believable. A lot of that study was from the US government, so it's reputable. Best to have multiple studies. I gave you 3 different studies in that there. And make sure that in addition to your research, you compare it, storytelling. I told stories throughout that too. Make sure, that's what you have to do, because we have a rule at Americans for the Arts: no data without a story, and no story without data. It helps people remember everything, and that's where we have really found at Americans for the Arts that we've been successful. We have great economic data. You have great economic data here in Lithuania. I promise you that. You maybe have to do a little bit more of researching it. And if you can tell that data, you're gonna really be successful here, because we have great, no matter where you're at, the CCI is really, really, powerful here. So I come back to this wheel here. I'm gonna give you an example of something here. So one of the 26 topics in here is community development. So I just want to talk a little bit about what is community development in the CCI. How does CCI help with community development in here? So community development we call it creative placemaking in the United States. Seeks more healthier, more vibrant, and more equitable places. And research shows that if you do have a better place, that people want to live there, greater economic stability, and it attracts more diverse and educated workforce. So, okay, everything that we want for a place to live. When a community struggles with social concerns, the arts can foster cooperative dialogue. They can bring around solutions and change. And the arts drive, as I talked about, increased tax base, stronger social networks, community cohesion, reduced health risks, higher empathy, and more community pride. Okay, that's our definition of community, development. So that's perfect. So, we have then on that circle, I'm just reading from the circle there, then we have some different statistics. Again, my research, you always have your research in there, so you can see some of these different research things. You can see that arts-rich neighborhoods are 1.6 times more connected than their non-neighborhoods that are out there. Or 86% of arts participants are more civically involved. So that's what you want. You want people to be more civically involved in there. Okay, so let me give you an example of what something like that looks like. Anyone have an idea what this is? And if you do, I will be really impressed. This is from the United States. This is not Venice. This is called Water Fire. It's in Providence, Rhode Island. It's very close to Delaware, sir. So it's Rhode Island, our smallest state. So they had a problem. Their downtown Providence, their capital, was empty at night, empty storefronts, lots of crime, and no economic activity. And they said, what can we do? We don't, what is their asset? Their asset was this river that went down through town, and it was even, it was not natural. It was all cement. And so someone had this really great idea of, let's put bonfires in the middle of the river throughout the summer, 12 weekends through the summer, and invite people down to look at it. And you can get into gondolas and you can go up and down. And lo and behold, people loved it. And I don't know how well you can see it, but there's people everywhere that come down to see this. And nowadays they have musical stages set up, and it's all free for people to come down. And so now people come down there to see these shows, but they also shop. The museums stay open late. It's safer down there. There's very few storefronts that are vacant, and they've used it to revitalize downtown Providence, Rhode Island. So it's been a wonderful tool that they've had. Providence is about 200,000 people. Here's another quick example. Paducah, Kentucky. I know you haven't heard of Paducah, Kentucky. Paducah, Kentucky is in the middle of Kentucky, rural America, 30,000 people. They had an area called Lower Town, which, again, nothing was going on. No one wanted to live there, broken down houses. So the CCI partnered with the city and the banks. And they said, we're going to do a national call, and we're going to ask artists to come live here, live in their houses, remodel the houses, and work out of their houses. And they have to live there for at least 5 years. And so now what is happening is Lower Town is where all the doctors and lawyers live, because it's the cool place to live, because the artist, the CCI, has made it the cool place to live. And they did that because they worked with the banks and their local governments and their businesses to make it the place to live and work there. And so now it is a lovely place, and I've been there. I'm actually going there in another month or so to again talk to them. But it's a great place, again, to live, work, and play that's down there. One of the last things I want to talk about, Vilma from the university here was talking about how it's important to have the arts to teach our kids. And in the United States, there's something called the Conference Board, and they represent the Fortune 500 businesses in the country or in the world. And we asked them a few years ago, what is the top 10 skills you are looking for from future employees? And 2 of the 10 were creativity and innovation. Okay, those sound kind of familiar to us. And so how do you teach that? How do you teach for jobs that don't exist yet? Because that's what we're doing right now. We don't know what the jobs 20 years from now will look like, because our technology is continuing to move here. So creativity and innovation, you do that through teaching the CCI, through arts education. So that's one of the things that we really do. And so we're not out to create a whole new army of artists. We're out to create a whole new army of creative, innovative employees, at least in the United States and probably around the world here to do that. So I'm almost done here, and I'm almost out of time. So some reasons that you should be partnering with the businesses here. Great way to recruit talent by working with the CCI. It helps put your company in the spotlight. Advances your objectives and fosters critical thinking. Again, creative, innovative employees helps make your company more valuable, more profitable that you're out there. CCI helps to challenge your employees, gives them more things to think about, to create, embraces diversity and team building. It says thanks to your employees, gives them things to go see and do, and it contributes to your economic and quality part of life. So the CCI really is the solution. So much can happen with the CCI. It's our biggest secret, though. It really is. And if we can just talk, it is our biggest secret to ourselves. How many people learned something here today? Please raise your hand that you learned something here today. Thank you. I always like when I go and I talk to these even elected officials, they learn something. They all have preconceived notions about what the CCI is and isn't. And so it really is something that is a valuable tool and can really be transformational to the American economy, the Lithuanian economy. It really doesn't matter, but we are transformational. We can really make a difference. And so with that, thank you very much. I'm right on time. I'm so happy with that. And I think we're doing some questions.
Thank you, Joe, for your extensive contribution. And we do have some questions from the audience, but since we are at the university, so I would allow myself to ask something Socrates would ask.
Hemlock. Use hemlock.
Yeah. He was the best troll in the history of humanity, I think. And you said what the CCI is. You covered that topic, what the CCI really is. And what the CCI is not, in your opinion. What other fields or spheres of activities or trades that definitely do not include CCI?
You know what? I would say that I can make almost anything into the CCI. You know, I talked about how if the CCI is creating something from your imagination. So I could take a plumber, for example, and he's looking at a problem, and he has to be a little creative in how he could do that. Now, is that a traditional CCI? Probably not. But it takes that creative person with years of experience to say, okay, I could kind of make this do something. I'm not a plumber. I don't know how it works. But, you know, it could be, so I would say, from my perspective in the United States, we at Americans for the Arts do not put a limit on what the CCI or the arts is. If it touches your soul and it makes you happy, that's fine for me. Now, the federal government does define what the arts are in the United States, but we don't actually at Americans for the Arts.
Because we usually narrow down the subject to proper arts.
Yeah.
And we forget that arts they constitute just a small part of everything.
Yeah. So our federal government defines...
And we sometimes tend to think that creativity is always a positive thing. Terrorists are very creative, aren't they?
They are, yes. So I would not want to include something like that. I think that's outside
Propaganda
of the
realm. Is a creative subject, isn't it?
It can be, yes.
And you touched upon
I talked about
George Washington.
But he was a good guy. So we have to be very careful about that.
Yeah, we must be careful about that.
The federal government in the United States, because their government, they are going to define everything. And so our federal government has 7 different forms of art that they define as that. I personally don't like to put limits or rules on what is a CCI and what isn't. You know, you had those 15 that were around there. And so I personally don't like to say you're not. I don't like to exclude people. If someone thinks they're a member of the CCI, if that auto mechanic thinks he's a member of the CCI, I just personally would say, fine. Does it hurt me or does it hurt that? I don't think so. I might be in the minority here, but I think that we should be embracing as many industries that's out there to say we are a powerhouse. Now, I want to also say I recognize the traditional art forms that are out there. And I recognize and I honor those because I can do a stick figure at best when I'm drawing. But our economy is changing so much that's out there. Who would have thought that creating a video game would be the art or creative economy 30 years ago. We wouldn't even know what that was 30 years ago. That's huge. That's the biggest growth of the CCI in America right now is game design.
It's the biggest growing industry.
Yeah, yeah. So I would just say I try not to limit it.
Okay, and we have questions for the audience, and the most liked question is, the artists do starve in real life. How to change that?
Is that the starving artist narrative?
I don't know, but he has or she has 4 likes.
So in the United States, we have this narrative of the starving artist, that they're really not an artist. They are a waiter, that they are an office worker and they do the arts on the side. That's, but they can't make enough money of doing the art on the side with that. And so that's a tough one, to do. And so there's several things to do about that. The first thing is flip the switch, and you're an artist first, and then maybe you're an office worker second. Maybe the office working right now is what's paying your bills or paying your health care or whatever the case. In the United States, is paying your health care. I know, we are crazy in the United States. We have to pay for our own health care. But flip that narrative. What can you be doing here to promote your art? Whether, again, in the United States, you can work with galleries, or you can be working with other NGOs to promote your art, to get to be well known, figure out how to, with social media nowadays, you can work to sell your art more easily. Again, before social media, before electronics, you could only sell your art within the 6 square blocks where you live. Nowadays, you can sell your art nationwide or worldwide. So how can you look at marketing yourself better? So market yourself as an artist and think of yourself as an artist first, and maybe you're paying your bills by your working in an office, and then maybe over time it's going to switch over and you're a full-time artist with that. But it's hard. It's absolutely hard, that to make that full-time thing. Maybe it will take 20 years, I don't know. But think about how you're marketing yourself, and keep working at your craft too, to make yourself even better at what you do.
And maybe you will be better off as a plumber.
Plumbers make a lot of money in the United States.
Okay, what is your thoughts on how to change stigma on artists that we are weird people and it's not work, it's a hobby thing, hobby topic?
I want to embrace the weird. That's always because I love embracing the weird, So don't change that. But no, seriously. Hopefully, the data that I've showed you here shows that we're real people, real business people that contribute to the economy. So use data. I make sure that my advocates in the United States are always using data. They never go in and talk about why the arts are just nice. We never talk about that. We talk about here's why the arts are good for the economy, why arts are good for jobs, and why arts are good for taxes. Full stop. That's all we do with that. Same thing here. If you can talk about why the arts are good for the economy, how they help with the economy, I think that is your ticket to getting the respect that you deserve. Work with different, either your government or NGOs here to do those data studies that, like I showed you with what we have in the United States, so that you can demonstrate here's the value that we give to the United States. Some of the most important things that we've done is, remember, I compared our industry to the construction industry, the transportation. That is huge. When I show that to elected officials, their mind is blown because they have no idea. The CCI members have no idea we're bigger than those things there. So data, data, data.
The next question is, in Europe, businesses are comfortable with generous government subsidies. What could be done in creating a culture of businesses patronizing culture?
Give businesses a reason to. So I gave you 10 reasons there at the rate of my presentation. But again, you shouldn't ask businesses to patronize the CCI out of the generosity of their hearts. Say, hey, here's what we're going to bring to the table. We're going to bring more profits to you. We are going to be able to help you be a better business, whether it be more creative, innovative employees, whether it's going to be helping you to get your market brand out more, whether it's going to help you just be a place where more people want to work at. So it's what can we do to bring more value added to that business, not just that handout to that business.
What data is best to collect, and what have you learned of pushing data analytics in art in national level? So I understand. Yeah.
So some of the data that I just showed, and again, I can only speak for the United States on this, is in the United States, elected officials really only care about jobs, the economy, and taxes. Those are really the things that they really care about. That's been a real big push. And so the data that I showed you is some of the primary data that we do. The other thing that we also do is, I talked about this, we tell personal stories along with that data, because the elected officials are not going to remember the data per se. They will remember the story. We tug at their heart with the story, and then they'll come back and they'll find the data with that. The other area that we've had a lot of success with is using the arts around healthcare, especially around PTSD. And that could be for children, that could be for our military veterans. We all have a problem going on here in Europe with the war. There's going to be a lot of people that have PTSD. How can the CCI here in Lithuania and other countries step up to help those people that are suffering? They don't have to be in the war zone. They maybe have a family member. I looked at your exhibit earlier today of those people who are no longer with us. They have families. They suffer from PTSD. How can the CCI help them? So around arts and healthcare, big thing in the United States too.
And the next question, and how can country or regions establish connections and partnership programs with countries that are as far away as the United States? Because we have many people from Lithuanian region here as well.
Internet's a great thing. Google me. That's how they found us. They just sent us an email. Says, hey, come talk to us. And so it's a really simple thing. Oops. Oh, it switched off. My email was on the last slide there. It's my email is jay@artsusa.org. jay@artsusa.org. Always happy to work with folks.
Okay, one more question. What are your suggestions on how to bring the CCI to everyone, to common people? You talked about it already, but maybe you could expand a little bit.
I would say the CCI is already to the common people. I bet you, I know I can do this in the United States. I can go into every small town in the United States and find something going on with the CCI. It's oftentimes a more traditional craft that's going on, but I can find something that already exists. The key thing is identifying it and saying, no, it's, I do this with the elected officials. They don't think, the CCI, it's not in my little hometown. I go, no, it's right there. We data map a lot of the nonprofit CCIs in the United States. I have a map of a congressman or congresswoman's district, and I have dots that shows all the different CCI nonprofits. I'm like, yeah, right there. You got 5 of them right there. I didn't know they were there. It's identifying them oftentimes to the elected officials. So I would say they're already there. I could probably, when I'm going around this weekend in Lithuania, my little touristy thing, I bet you I can find them in most every little town that's here. It's just getting them to recognize that they're already there, giving them maybe a little support to say, stand up, be proud of what you're doing, and becoming part of the national network. At Americans for the Arts, we want everyone to be part of our group, so when we advocate on the federal level, all of those CCI members across the country can advocate with us. And so all of our voices are heard. So if we have, in the United States, there's about 5 million people who get their jobs through the CCI. If I can get all 5 million of those people to stand up and yell at Congress at the same time, we're going to win. Right now I only have 400,000 on my list, but if I can get 5 million of them, that'd be great. Same thing here in Lithuania. If you can get them to be part of a national movement, you're going to be very successful. But that's the hard part, is to have them part of the national movement.
I understand you talk on this subject with the audience, but also with the government officials and also journalists. And do you see that people understand what you say? I mean, government officials or journalists, do they understand the subject? Are you on the same page talking to them?
Yes, but I have to make sure I understand which chapter I'm at with the elected officials. So that big circle of 26 different topics, if I'm going to talk to an elected official, so say you're a senator from a very conservative southern state. So I know kind of, okay, what your general thoughts are. I am not going to come talk to you about a topic that I know you're not going to like. I'm going to come talk to you about another CCI topic that I think you're probably going to like better. So I have to be smart about how I talk to you. My job is to get you to say yes to me. So I'm not going to...
So you're basically a preacher.
Sure, I'm an advocate. I'm a preacher too. But that's my job. So it's be thoughtful about how I am talking. See, we have lots of great stories and data. And we have 26, you asked me the first question of who's not in the CCI. We have all this stuff here. So I can talk to you about the CCI in a lot of great different ways. And, and that's the nice thing about us. And we're so great. And so it's just a key thing about talking about the CCI the way you, Senator, would understand it. And if I can do that, you're going to go, oh, I never thought about it that way. That's really cool. Now, are you going to necessarily vote for me right off the bat? Maybe. But you're going to open that door, that thought process up just a little bit. And then I'll come back to you in another month or so and start talking about it. I always say it's a marathon, not a sprint. And you just keep going at it there. And so, yes, we have been successful. We've been very successful in getting more funding, more equitable laws for the CCI employees. We're doing really well. There's much more we could be doing. Trust me, much more. But we've been very successful because we've changed our argument from 20 years ago that the CCI, fund the CCI because it's the right thing to do, that we're wonderful, which used to be our argument, to it's great for jobs, economy, and taxes.
Mr. J. Dick, thank you very much.